South Korea has wrapped up the third Summit for Democracy, which invited world leaders, ministers, and members of civil society to discuss how to protect and advance freedom and human rights in the face of growing threats posed by new technologies. Now, this year, the theme was democracy for future generations. For more, we have our correspondent Oh Soo-young here in the studio. Welcome back, Sooyoung.
Hi, DAMI. It's great to be here.
Sooyoung, so the third edition of the summit put a much spotlight on elections and artificial intelligence, right?
Exactly. President Yoon Suk Yeol himself, actually, he led the leader session on AI, elections and fake news. And, well, with more than 60 countries representing half of the world's 8 billion people holding elections this year, Yoon stressed that it is more important than ever before to protect the foundation of democracy by holding fair elections.
특정 세력들이 조직적으로 제작하고 배포하는 가짜 뉴스는 단순히 잘못된 정보를 전파하는 것을 넘어 사회적 갈등과 분열을 야기합니다. 또한 가짜 뉴스는 국민들이 사실과 다른 정보를 바탕으로 잘못된 판단을 내리도록 선동함으로써 민주주의 근간인 선거를 위협하고 있습니다. 이는 민주주의에 대한 분명한 도발입니다.
He said the international community must work together to strictly enforce the law against foreign actors working to extend influence in elections in other countries, especially in this digital age where online users and spaces are highly exposed to falsehood and manipulation that can create content that's heavily curated with algorithms. In particular, he raised the need for countries to jointly develop AI and a digital mechanism to detect and eradicate forces that utilize the same technologies to generate fake news. Now, this was reflected in a document released after the summit on Thursday, as world leaders agreed that technological cooperation is needed to fight disinformation and the misuse of technology.
Sooyoung, and the chair's summary was issued after the summit ended. Now, walk us through some of the key points there.
Right, so the chair's summary that set out the general direction of how democracies are going to address threats to freedom and rights across societies as they come. Now, it seems that the participants were on the same page about the need to counter fake news and the destabilizing effects of technology, as well as the need to reinforce electoral integrity, a fair justice system, and the freedom of media. Given the theme of the summit, Democracy for the Future Generation, there was a special focus on the role of young people in democratic governance, including reflecting their perspectives into decision-making processes. Now, this means more opportunities to enhance their political participation, as well as access to open and high-quality information. The same goes for women and marginalised groups. Another significant part of the discussions was supporting democratic systems in the Global South.
So it's very important to help the less or not as experienced democracies, because some of them might be smaller players in the world ecosystem, or they might not have the resources or the expertise to combat some of the, I'm not going to say spying, but sometimes some countries may want to influence others. So some of these do not have the tech capacity to defend themselves. It could be through hacking or whatnot. So it's important for the advanced countries to take the lead, help them with politics, policies, but also the technical side as well, to show them, yes, there's these risks, but we have some of the expertise, so let's all work on it together.
And moderating these discussions, I'm sure, must have been very significant for South Korea because it became the first to host the U.S.-initiated Summit for Democracy outside the United States.
You're exactly right, Tammy. In fact, the country's unique experience of rising from the ashes of the Korean War, impoverished and under the attack of communist forces, to the liberal democratic society that leads the world in IT and popular culture today. Now, this stood out to observers around the world and really highlighted the potential of South Korea in renewing faith in democracy. Now, observers say that Seoul is uniquely positioned to lead this global renewal of democracy, as they put it, in an era where freedom across societies is on a worrying decline. Now, in a written column for Foreign Policy, Damon Wilson, president of the US-based National Endowment for Democracy, and Lin Lee, the US-based foundation's East Asia director, said that South Korea's experience of homegrown democracy can show how free speech, free markets, and political competition can be universal for all societies, not just Western countries. They said South Korea's soft power, supercharged by K-pop, of course, and its level of digital innovation, these were all made possible by its freedom of expression. Going forward, they said that other democracies, they need to back South Korea as it leads in promoting democratic institutions, especially in the Indo-Pacific and the Global South.
Korea is quite liked by many other countries, so it's good to kind of leverage this and show, yes, there's the American style of democracy, but in Asia, a country like Korea with its very dense population tech, democracy could also work in this kind of nature as well. So I think it's very good to show the different levels, different types of democracy, especially in terms of key themes like tech, AI. So I think in that perspective, it was very important.
But Sooyoung, some countries were opposed to South Korea holding the summit, right?
Yes, I imagine you're talking about China or Russia. And indeed, as the US-led summits for democracy focus on promoting freedom, human rights, and the rule of law across all societies to make them open, they have to counter the rather authoritarian and autocratic forces that are not only suppressing freedom and using technology to control their societies, but are suspected of attempting to influence other countries as well. That is, in fact, the very reason why the Summit for Democracy was first launched in 2021. So you'd see why China and Russia, they would have to pay special attention to the conference. Of course, for China, there's also the issue of Taiwan being included in the opening ceremony. Beijing expressed firm opposition to Taiwan's Minister of Digital Affairs, Audrey Tang, participating unannounced virtually on Monday. And it accused the summit of weaponizing the principle of democracy and urged South Korea to adhere to the One China principle. In response, South Korea's foreign ministry said Tuesday that Seoul's position of respecting the One China principle remains unchanged and that the summit does not single out countries in ideological confrontation, but it's all about reinforcing universal values for humanity. According to Tae Ju, professor of Chinese studies at Kyung University, Beijing's reaction to the summit was largely expected.
China was already very dissatisfied with South Korea's position on the South China Sea and its call for the freedom of navigation. Then, not long ago, South Korea's Air Force landed an aircraft in Taiwan and refueled. So, as South Korea held the Summit for Democracy, it seems Beijing, in its highly sensitive response, used the occasion to project its discontent.
According to Chu, the summit's focus on AI also rings alarm bells.
Currently, there aren't universal standards and norms established in most areas of emerging tech, especially in the AI field and fourth industrial revolution technologies. While Russia and China are part of global discussions on technical standards, they seem afraid that there might be exclusive meetings and agreements that they're not part of.
As countries compete to build new standards to govern new technologies on top of the technologies themselves, these discussions on establishing rules and guardrails around them matter, and now it seems that South Korea is at the centre of those discussions. In 2024, Seoul will be hosting an AI safety summit, which was launched in the UK last year, and co-hosting the second conference on the responsible use of AI in the military domain.
All right, Sooyoung, we look forward to those updates.
Sure, anything for you, Tammy.
All right, thank you for that report today, Sooyoung.
Thanks for your time, Tammy.